with all due respect.
Hey, we're Josh Ortegon and Greg Gaines, and this is With All Due Respect, the show where we keep it real about health, fitness, and performance. From weight loss to sports development, we're covering the conversations that matter.
Follow us on Instagram at Phenom Fitness, PHNM Fitness, and visit www.phenomfit.com to check out our training programs, coaching, and gear built for real results. Let's get into it.
All right, so today we're bringing on episode 78, Ryan Savage. Gray, that's your friend. That's another physical therapist we're bringing on.
Yes, I love Ryan. I actually did CrossFit with Ryan for a little while. My husband's been doing CrossFit with Ryan for a lot longer, but I always, like I said in the episode, you'll hear me say at the end, like I love having a physical therapist on. I think that talking about not necessarily injury prevention, but how to work with an injury or not to be afraid of an injury is really important, especially if you're heavily involved in physical activity because it's bound to happen. So
Yeah.
just hearing his perspective and him talk about it is always really cool.
Yeah, I always like introducing physical therapists to let people know there's other ways to do it outside of your generic hospital-owned system that's just pumping out patients. You're seeing 4 people at a time, and you're just running through a band circuit with a tech. I like people to know that there's other ways to do it. I think Ryan was awesome. I think he was really great tips. Guys, make sure you follow us at Phenom Fitness for our Instagram. We got YouTube, Spotify, and Apple to find all of our episodes.
And make sure you buy our book, The
Yes.
Fitness Blueprint, which is on Amazon.
The Fitness Blueprint. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye. All right. Welcome back, guys. Another episode of With All Due Respect. Somewhere in the upper 70s is where we're at now. Yeah?
I said, I don't know.
70 something. I reached out to my friend Ryan, who's with us today. Ryan's a physical therapist in Greer. We'll dive in just a second, let Ryan introduce himself. But my main question with Ryan was, I think we are getting a rise in conversation around injury in women, especially with their knees. So that's when I reached out to Ryan. I said, hey, I think this would be a really good podcast episode. But before we dive into physical therapy and all of the questions around physical therapy, I'll let Ryan take it away, introduce himself, tell us what you do, where you're at, all the good stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm in Greer, South Carolina. So Gray, her husband now, and I used to go to the same gym. So that's where we all kind of met. And her husband was my old lifting buddy. So miss having them in the upstate.
I know.
Yeah. But like Gray said, I'm a physical therapist at Onward Physical Therapy. We are an out-of-network physical therapy clinic. So we aren't limited by insurance or any of those kind of restrictions. We mostly treat, like I'd say, active adults are our main population. So people trying to take their health a little bit more seriously. And I always explain what we do is like we treat the entire spectrum of active adults. So we treat people who consider themselves like competitive athletes, but then we also treat people who are kind of trying to figure out what fitness looks like in their life, and maybe even if they're not sure what that's supposed to look like, and try to help them take those kind of steps. So we have a lot of relationships with gyms in the area. So I'd say we get most of our like referrals instead of coming from doctors' offices. We have people who are like, hey, I don't know what gym to join, or people who are just stepping foot in the gym and having little things kind of pop up.
And you're very heavily involved in the gym space too. You coach CrossFit on the side as well.
Yeah. Again, always happy to critique Alston's form. Yeah, for sure.
He loves that. He does miss you guys a lot. He's been going to a new gym down here, and he's like, the workouts are so long. Like, I like the 6-minute sprint workouts, and right now I'm doing like 30-minute workouts. He's like, I'm out of shape.
I feel like that market of person is growing, right? I also feel the self-pay side of physical therapy is growing. Would you say that, the self-pay side?
Yeah. Not to get too much in the weeds of it, but unfortunately, some insurance reimbursement rates have gone down. So basically, clinics are getting paid less per patient that they're seeing. And in order to make up for that, unfortunately, they have to, I mean, you gotta keep the lights on, pay the bills. So they're having to see more patients in a day. And I mean, at some point, you're sacrificing quality for quantity. So, with our ability of being self pay, we're able to give each person as much individual attention as I feel like they deserve.
Hmm. Um, and I assume you guys are private, you're not hospital affiliated.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that provides different challenges, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, it's all very different. Again, the kind of barrier to entry is like the people walking through my doors are taking that step of taking their health more seriously. Because again, not going to lie to you, it's obviously it could be cheaper to go through insurance,
Mhm.
but it's again the quality and care that you're going to get is just going to be different.
And what are the law? There's laws in South Carolina that you can see people for a certain number of times until they have to be referred from somebody else.
From the hospital, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know
so
what it is.
it actually used to be 30 days. Somebody could walk through my door without a doctor referral. And I believe that changed last year to now, so long as I'm doing assessment to make sure that they're appropriate to still be cared for by just a physical therapist. I don't need to refer them to a doctor unless something starts to blip as red flag wise, but that's why we do that sort of assessment.
Hmm.
How often do you do that assessment just for your own notes? Is that something you kind of do like every 30 days if you're seeing somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say we do a little bit of an assessment every time someone's coming in because I want to make sure that whatever we're working on and treating is getting better. So I like to have some objective tests and measures to make sure that we're still headed down the right path and hitting things with the right dosage, et cetera. But that first day that someone's coming into me that I haven't seen them before, I'm mostly doing a lot of screening out of red flags, making sure that this is a musculoskeletal issue or something that I feel like we can get better in these four walls.
Yeah, I feel like historically, I personally have helped people save a lot of money by making the first contact of intervention a really good physical therapist.
Mm,
Hmm.
Because, say a mom hits me up and is like, hey, my kid's 15, sprained his ankle. We're going to see his orthopedic tomorrow. Well, man, once you start that process, I can almost tell you what it's going to be.
hmm
You're going to get an x-ray, you're going to get an MRI, you're going to get a note that says you can't participate for X amount of time. And then you're going to get that MRI back. Then they're going to tell you to go to physical therapy somewhere within the hospital. And you get kind of lost inside this black hole.
hmm
And in the meantime, you just got hit with x-rays, MRIs, doctor's appointments, can't see you till next week. And in my environment, when we've used a really good physical therapist, you go to a physical therapist or even our local athletic trainer who realizes it's a grade one sprain. They need to treat it and they'll probably be back playing in 10 days.
Yeah. It's
Right.
like, can you rule out the fracture? Get them to
Yes.
the right spot. Yep.
Yes. And that's kind of like what you guys would do. Like do a full eval and be like, this isn't an orthopedic issue. They're called orthopedic surgeons for a reason because they do surgery. Right. And that first point of intervention can be a somebody like yourself to rule out a lot of unnecessary billing.
hmm Correct. Yep.
And usually that comes because people really just don't know how it works, right? They panic and they're setting up orthopedic doctor visits for a grade one sprain,
hmm
right? Um, and I have saved people a lot of money, saved people a lot of time, saved myself a ton of money and time with somebody like you to be like, hey, I don't see any major issues. This is probably, it's not a surgery.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a surgery. And that's really important in the process for a population of people that are growing that maybe they don't want, not just kids, right? I know we're kind of talking about like the knee and the girl and the female athlete, but um there's a huge growing population of people that are like, I need to be active in my 30s, 40s, and 50s. And the quick way to not be active is by getting hurt,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right? And having somebody like yourself I always said people who want to be active the longer in life, they kind of need to have their own little team, their own little PT, someone to help them with health, nutrition, fitness, a little person to keep them injured, right? Or keep them from getting injured so they can stay as healthy and active and engaged in their environment as long as humanly possible.
Yeah. I really like that way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I mean now, and I've heard you guys talk about it on the podcast before, of there's just so much information out there that
Mhm.
it's like you do need your own little team to like kind of help you navigate what is appropriate and applies to your situation. Because again, there's just so much quantity of information. Some of it's good, some of it's not good, some of it's good but doesn't apply to you, all this kind of stuff. So having like somebody who really knows their stuff in that field, being able to guide you through whatever, whether it's nutrition or physical therapy or physical activity or coaching, whatever that looks like.
Do you have a population of, so I know a lot of people have gone to PT school and they're like, I'm going to go to PT school and I'm only going to work with athletes.
Mhm.
And then they get out of PT school and it's workers' comp and grandma's book, right? And like, "Oh, didn't expect this." Do you have a population of patient that you really love to work with that really challenges you, that you really like, you know, this is why I became a physical therapist?
Yeah, I would say the recreational athlete, it would be the one that like really gets me going because it's the one that like I identify with the most, right? Like I mean, we've kind of implied it, but Gray and I like we did CrossFit together, and like that's my mode of fitness. I'm not going to the CrossFit games, like that's. But I like working with the people who are like, oh, I go to an Orange Theory or a group fitness class, or I'm in crunch grinding by myself, just knowing, trying to stay active and take care of myself and be as the fittest version of myself. But I have this thing that's holding me back, or this thing that's kind of in the back of my mind and worrying me, or this thing that's kind of cropped up, and I'm not sure whether it's an injury or an overuse thing or what to do about it. And helping them kind of navigate that, because that's what I would relate to the most myself. Because I would also be, if I didn't have the training that I've had in the gym pushing, and then have something crop up and be like, do I push through this? Do I rest it? What do I do? How do I? And just being able to be that guidepost for people, that's what gets me most excited.
Yeah, that's because let's be honest, you tell a CrossFitter to take 2 weeks off, they're probably not going to do it,
Right.
right?
I think too, like the space that physical therapists have come into now, I mean, nobody wants to get injured, but I'm less afraid of being injured because of the education around the injury now. Like previously, playing sports, an injury was like the worst thing to ever happen to you.
Hmm.
But now with the physical therapists I've worked with, I know like along your same lines, the injury is not scary anymore. It's like, okay, there's a much better route to success from your injury with what we're doing now versus what we were doing 10 years ago. So the education around injury is it's a lot better. It's a lot less scary.
Yeah, we even say like sometimes, I mean, a level of injury can be a little bit inevitable, and it's
Hmm.
not this terrible thing. It used to be like people would almost be embarrassed that they got hurt, and sometimes, if you're doing something a little foolish, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been doing that. But at another degree, it's like sometimes things just happen, and it's not this horrible thing. It's not this like end all. You're never going to be in the gym again. You're never going to hit those weights again. But it's like, all right, how do we use this as an opportunity to get even better and bounce back even stronger?
Yeah. You were there that day that we were squatting and it was like a warm-up weight and I threw my back out with my warm-up weight. I was like, oh, well, I'm just gonna go sit in the corner.
Have
It's
you ever
terrible.
read, have you ever read Stuart McGill's book, The Gift of Injury? Have you ever heard of that book?
I know Stuart McGill. I haven't read that book though.
So he wrote a book with this guy. It's called The Gift of Injury. And this guy was one of the top power lifters in the world. And I'm talking like one of those 1,000-pound squatter guys, right? 330-pound dude and just a massive, monstrous human being. And he ended up with like a par fracture and like little fractures in his lumbar spine.
Mm,
And he worked with Stuart McGill for a long time, basically building his body back to where he could back squat again. And he broke his own record in the back squat like a few years after the injury. And he talked about how Stuart McGill basically took that injury, turned it into a blessing because he built his body back completely from reverse engineering it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really breaking down, you know, the pattern, really breaking down where he needed to be strong, where he wasn't strong. And he claims that it was such a gift to have that injury because it allowed him to do it back right,
Mm-hmm.
that without it, he would never be able to get back to that strength.
Yeah, that's a pretty healthy perspective.
It was built in reverse, right? He said he was built in reverse. He was a great back squatter, but he really wasn't strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that a lot as we kind of take it full circle. I've seen that a lot with the female athlete who tears their ACL.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 15 years old. She tears her knee. Maybe she enjoyed strength training. Maybe it was fun for her, but not really the main priority. And then something like a torn ACL that can be devastating because to tell a 15-year-old girl you're probably done for a year, that's a lot, man. You know,
Yeah.
as you get older, you're like a year is like I can do a year in my sleep. But like, um, and what happens is they get with the right physical therapy group. They incorporate strength and conditioning modalities, right? They're not just pumping her on the biodex and doing single leg balance on the Bosu ball, right? It's
Thank goodness. Yeah.
yeah, which I guess to my knowledge, I guess it still happens now. I didn't know that, right? I thought we everybody did it different now, and it's
Yeah.
not. And she gets with the right people, she builds that back, and now she's stronger. But not only that, she created an incredible work ethic in the weight room that now she's even better,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you experience that with people a lot where that injury is at first they see it as devastating,
Mm-hmm.
but after a while you're like, wow, what they who they became in the process of that recovery was such a better person and a better athlete.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys experience this as well, where yes, you're coaching the movement and the physical side of things, but you're also kind of having to coach people through the mental side of things too. Because you're right, it is this huge, devastating thing, especially if you kind of see yourself as this like, I'm a CrossFitter, I'm an Orange Theory, I'm a runner, and then you have an injury that's maybe not letting you do that activity to the level that you were used to doing it at. And it's kind of like it's almost an identity crisis of like that I was a runner and now I'm like partial weight bearing, or like I have a surgery or a knee thing or whatever that's not letting me do the activity that I identify with. And so it's kind of coaching people through like the mindset shift of, can we, take this as the opportunity, I like that word that you used, to use this injury to build up some other things that maybe we weren't focused on before. And getting people who are almost at this like all or nothing, like if I can't go run, then I guess I'm just not going to do anything until I can go run again. And it's like, no, no, no. What can we do? How can we scale, modify? What else can we be doing to, how do we still get our cardio in while we have a knee thing going on? Like that kind of thing. And getting them to kind of shift and see themselves as, okay, I still can be active and I still can be exactly who I want to be and come back better, stronger than I was even before this injury.
Yeah, I imagine doing what you do, should have an honorary degree in psychology.
People make that joke that they come in for physical therapy and we do a little bit of mental therapy as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because if you tell a girl 6 weeks out or 6 months out from ACL, I need you to jump and land on the involved leg. And they look at you sometimes, they're like, no.
Yeah.
And you're like, honey, I can't let you go do anything in your sport until I can see you jump and land on that involved leg. And they're
Hmm.
not going to do it, right? Because there's still a little trauma from the injury,
Right.
right? You have to find a way to back up and progress her through that fear. Um, because I've seen ACL, man, I've seen ACLs are weird in girls. I've seen ACLs where they're like, we're all blown away. That was actually a torn ACL.
Hmm.
They had full range of motion, full function, everything was fine. You're like, then they go and they're like, hey, ACL's gone. Then I've seen girls tear the ACL, and you would have thought they got sniped in the leg by a 30-06. Like, you know what I'm saying? You would have thought like, well, someone cut her leg off because she's on the
Hmm.
ground freaking out.
Hmm.
And that's always been weird for me with the ACL. And I feel like that has to do a lot with the recovery is what was the injury like, right?
Yeah.
How traumatic was the injury? Now, they're all a little traumatized when they come out of surgery. They wake up and they're like, why does my leg look like a popsicle?
Of course.
Right? And they can't even make a quad muscle and they're like, oh my, how am I supposed to ever be able to do my sports again? But the psychology side, especially of a young female athlete,
Hmm.
that's a challenge, man. That's a challenge that you guys have to carry. I mean, you almost got to talk them up, right? Like
Hmm.
the first time you're like, hey, we're gonna go do some agility drills on a field, and they're like, nope,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know how many women that you see regularly, Ryan, but I guess my whole reason for reaching out to you is that I see it a lot with women that I take on as clients, and I don't train as many people on the fitness side anymore, but I do still have people that I write programs for that I'll train in person, and it's a big thing. Like every couple of months, somebody's like, "Oh, my knee hurts," and it's typically a woman. What is it like? Like, do you see that kind of injury often? Do you have a lot of complaints from women with their knees? Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I was actually kind of interested when you first reached out about like, oh, it's I see a lot of women with knee pain. I thought that was kind of interesting because I feel like I actually looked back in my schedule for knee pain category people, and I have a pretty 50-50 split of like males, females.
Hmm.
But that being said, the knee is always kind of a weird one because typically when somebody comes in for a knee injury, it was not a huge traumatic knee injury. It was like
Right.
oh, my knee started doing this tweaky thing. Maybe it's gotten worse over a couple of months. Now it aches all the time. It's like kind of this slow, insidious onset, slow progressively getting worse. It's typically not this like, oh, I stepped funny and my knee now hurts kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but so yeah, in that I definitely agree with. And sometimes I'll even be seeing somebody for something totally unrelated, like we're working on back pain and we're going to work on something out here, and they're like, oh, but my knee also does this funny thing when I squat, and it's just kind of funny
Yes.
how it comes up.
Yeah, and that's but it's because it happens in me personally. Like every few months I get the same thing where it doesn't bother me and then one day I'll go squat and I'm like, that
There
didn't
it
feel
is.
good. Yeah, that
Yeah.
didn't feel good. And it's not always like it hurts, it's just like it's limiting more than anything. So I didn't know, why is it so prevalent in women? I do know that there's some research around the lead of our cycle. So like in our luteal phase, our knees tend to feel a little bit weaker. I don't know if you've seen anything like that. Um, or if it's just weakness that we have in other areas, which typically that's what I find. It's like if I haven't been training my glutes that well, okay, my knee is starting to hurt because my hips hurt, right?
Mhm.
Like my range of motion isn't there. What's your take on that piece?
So there's typically, if somebody starts to complain about the kind of knee pain that it sounds like we're describing, of like it's not an injury, there's not a significant history in the knee. There's kind of three directions that I go. One is I'll always ask about like, has there been a change in training? Like, have we started adding a running program in addition to our normal training? Have we started a squat cycle? Are we just asking more of our knees than our knees are kind of used to?
Hmm.
And then kind of coinciding with that is just like a capacity issue, right? Like if a certain body part can like handle this much and you ask it to do this much, there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect, and that's where things tend to feel a little bit achy and not feel so great. And then the third one is exactly what you said, of looking up and down the chain. I think a lot of people who come in for knee pain will kind of attack the knee initially, kind of head on, see how we can calm that initial pain down. But then I definitely always look up and down the chain, and very, very typically I'll find something at the hip or something at the ankle that's also kind of blipping all the way down at the knee. And then we'll typically address that. So like what you were saying of doing some intentional glute work, and then the knee starts to feel a little bit better. It's like,
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
It's so funny because I'm my own worst client sometimes. Like I had this little knee agitation last week, and I'm like, well, duh, you're doing Squattober, so you've been squatting every day for a month so far. Like obviously your knee, the capacity is like your knee is going to feel that.
Is there a, I haven't been involved in this subject for a long time. I used to be more into it, but has the research changed around young female athletes in the ACL? I know, um, I heard recently somebody say we've known more about young female athletes in the ACL than we ever have, yet consistently see a rise in the prevalency of the injury. Like we know more about it than we ever known,
Hmm.
and you would think education would change behavior, but it doesn't, right? There's a high, let's like girls are injuring their ACLs more now than ever, but we know more about it now more than ever. Uh,
Yeah.
has research in the last few years changed? Is that still the case? And is it still more prevalent in girls? And has research changed as to why? Because Grace said, you hear about hamstring difference and hamstring strength. Hear about hormones. You hear about, oh, they don't strength train as much as boys, or you hear about overuse training or inbound. I mean, have we seen any difference in the last years in that, or is it still what it's always been?
Yeah, I mean, so there's been obviously they're always researching, always trying to find better, more information. But it's always like the research is always, I feel like 5 to 10 years behind, and then actually make implementing a difference of that research is then another 5 to 10 years behind. I definitely, without looking up anything specific, I would attribute it a lot to the amount of time spent in the weight room, just being so different for guys versus girls sports. But then even in addition to that, like the recovery of ACL, we're having some newer research about like non-surgical interventions in recovery. Yeah, as far as the ACL goes, which is a really interesting path to kind of go down. But then also, again, going back to the identity of these, especially younger girls with ACL stuff and their identity being that like female athlete and them just wanting to get back out on the field. I think bar and away, we see way too many people going back too soon just because they hit like a timeline of, oh, you're 9 months out, you're 6 weeks out, you can start running, you're 9 months out, you can go back to your sport. And it's like, well, did we do like some actual strength testing to figure out what our like quad to hamstring ratio is? Have we done some like cutting drills? Have we practiced that kind of thing? So I'll see a lot of female athletes typically after an ACL surgery. They won't come straight to me. They'll go kind of through the traditional PT route of where they need to be in there like 2 or 3 times a week. And then I'll pick up where that traditional PT tends to drop them off and insurance tends to drop them off of like, oh, you've hit your timeline landmarks. You're good to go. And there's still strength deficits and things that they can't do on that. And like you said, even the mental nervousness of planting, twisting on that affected leg for sure afterwards.
So you're seeing a lot of people that they're clinically rehabbed,
Yeah.
functionally return to sport rehab. I think
Yes.
people, a lot of parents really, because it's the parents that are making a lot of these decisions. The parents and maybe sport coaches don't understand that cleared from physical therapy means that your daughter can walk up and down the steps at school and can, participate in daily functional activities doesn't necessarily mean she can handle change of direction at that pace that she used to play.
Right.
And so you're saying you're actually seeing a lot of people in that gray area of, well, the doctor said we're cleared. I mean, how many times have you heard that, right? Like, oh, she can go back. The doctor said she's cleared. And you're like,
Right.
cleared to do what?
Right. And how did he test the strength of her quad like in the doctor's office?
Yeah, and they're like, well, yeah, they'll say the type of cadaver or quad tendon or whatever they use.
Mhm.
They put her on the biodex and she was in 70%, so she's good to go. And
Hmm.
forget that the mechanics are completely different when the foot hits the floor, man. Like, you
How
know,
likely is it if you to tear again
oh,
if you've torn the first?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I thought. It was a really high average of a re-tear.
Yeah, re-tears are really high, and even more than that, your likelihood of tearing your opposite ACL on
Right.
the
Yeah.
unaffected leg is like huge because if you think about it, like again, at your minimum, you're doing 9 months of recovery. And so that means you've spent 9 months not being in the weight room training your other leg, 9 months of not running, which trains both legs. So that's 9 months where you're almost doing way more specific work on the leg that you had surgery on and kind of ignoring the other leg because you're like, oh, that's my good leg. Like, and we're
Yeah.
not worrying about it. And then you go back, and now the other leg has also gotten weaker over that 9 months because you've been so focused on rehabbing the affected leg or the surgical leg. So we see that's why you see so many re-tears in the opposite leg. So again, one thing I'm looking at is big picture. How's our other leg doing? Do we have some things there? Can I watch you run? Are we clearly compensating here, there? That kind of thing, because that gets, I think, forgotten about a lot.
Sure.
I did
Yeah.
some research on the re-tear and the opposite one that were pretty alarming. Like they were so high, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's really alarming is the chance of tearing the other one. And what I used to think, and I don't even know if this is true, that maybe there were some biomechanical differences in the body that just made him more prone to tearing an ACL. But what you're saying, it almost comes down to the deconditioning of the unaffected
Hmm.
leg.
Hmm.
Just think, oh, let's just crush this right leg she tore, but we're forgetting about the left leg. So you would think that like a very good physical therapist would want to train both.
Correct. Big time. And there is some again research on like a neurological crossover where if I have somebody who's immobilized for whatever reason, like post-op, and they're in a cast or in a brace, we are working the crap out of the other side, whatever muscles that are immobilized on the affected side. Because there has been shown like a neurological crossover where you're going to have less atrophy, less muscle strength loss on the even the casted muscles that aren't doing any work on the affected side.
Isn't that crazy when you think about it? And I'm just kind of like, that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
nervous system has that much of a play into it.
Hmm.
You think, do you think with the young female athlete, do you deal with a lot more females who are sport specialized?
I think that there's a trend away from that, and I think that that's a good thing. Again, as far as like injury rates go and things like that, a lot of people, and I'm not going to say it doesn't happen anymore because I'm sure it still does, but I think there is a greater appreciation for kind of exposure to a diverse amount of sports and activities, and then later specialization, which I think is
Yeah,
better. As
I do feel like that might be something that's actually trending away is
Hmm.
the year-long participation in one sport. And I do think um, there's a movement towards if you do only want to play one sport, then you need to have a year-long map of when you're in the weight room, high intense, and never leaving the weight room, right? Like even if you are in season, you have to be in there 2 days a week. Maybe
Hmm.
off season, you're doing more strength and conditioning, right? And I think there's a much larger push for females that you know, in the media, we're seeing the positive reinforcement of the strong female athlete, right? I think we're
Mhm.
more girls actually getting affirmed for having muscle, for being strong. And I think that's only good considering where it has been. I mean, the girl in the weight room now is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm glad
Yeah.
you said that, and it's not just my algorithm and feed showing me that. So that's good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
No, it's true.
Like the girl that can get in there and squat, weight, and run and move, that can be physical on the field, and you know, I think a group of young girls are seeing the older girls, and it really started with the lacrosse. Who's the rugby girl we always talk about?
Alona.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
dude, she that's I mean. I mean, dude, if she punched you in the face, she put you in the dentist chair. And, and you see, the WNBA where these girls are actually physical
Hmm.
and strong and athletic, and you can still be that way. And I work in an environment where there is a consistent message that the weight room is for boys and girls. Like like don't let the boys come in and push you off the squat rack.
Hmm.
Like you can fight for your own squat rack. Like don't let that happen. And I
Yep.
feel like hopefully, like you said, you're seeing that for girls to come in and do that, and hopefully that'll lead to less injuries. But hopefully that'll also lead to, trying more multiple sports. But man, you see a girl who, and I'm sure you've seen this, you see a female athlete that embraces the weight room and and they embrace all that goes into that, they start to flourish I mean, they flourish in
Everywhere.
the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even in adulthood, like you flourish elsewhere because I mean we don't have a field to go to anymore, but I tell people all the time and like strength training has taught me the most about anything everywhere. It teaches so much beyond just being in the weight room. But I think that's true what you're saying too. Like before, now I think we're seeing like so much diversity inside of women's sports. So you're seeing like the Danielle Brandons, you're seeing Alona, you're seeing like we have a great women's team as far as like our soccer team, our tennis team. Like you're seeing a lot of different sports. Whereas I think before it was like, yeah, we had a great soccer team with Mia Hamm and we had like Venus and Serena.
Hmm.
We didn't really have it beyond that, right? Like that's who you would think of with the athletes, but now we have so many female athletes.
And CrossFit, right? Like, man, you had to like, if you wanted to find a platform to do Olympic lifting on before CrossFit, it didn't exist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now you got, you know, people, CrossFit gyms with Olympic platforms everywhere. Um, what got you into this field? Like, did you go through the journey of, did you have an injury early on, or were you just going through the process and this is where you always wanted to end up?
Yeah. I like growing up was always just like active, playing sports, whatever. And always, had little injuries here and there. So I spent my fair share of time, rehabbing this or that. And then I actually in high school knew I wanted to do something in this field. So I shadowed an orthopedic surgeon, an athletic trainer, and a physical therapist. And at the end of each of those days, the physical therapist was the only one who was like loving what he was doing and like, had a great rapport with the patients. The orthopedic surgeon, even straight, and I know it could be who I was seeing, but
Yeah.
he straight up was like, don't do this. This is not worth it. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So again, at the end of the day, the physical therapist, he was telling me how much he loved being a part of each patient's journey and not just the like see him at the beginning, tell him where to go, hope everything's fine, and maybe see him, 6 months from then. So I enjoy being kind of in the trenches with my people, is how I kind of look at it. And, they're coming to me with their frustrations and they're like, oh, like I thought that, this would feel better and it didn't yet. Or, but they're also coming to me with their little wins too of like, hey, I PR'd this lift even after that shoulder thing. Or, like this is feeling so much better than it used to. And I get to be right alongside each part of the process. And again, that's what kind of keeps me pumped about seeing those people in the gym.
Yeah, there's nothing that'll make somebody more loyal to you than getting them out of pain,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right? I'm involved in the jiu-jitsu community, and that's a lot like the CrossFit community. And like they'll like uh a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, he's a black belt, and he tore his meniscus.
Mm.
And dude, he went like 3 months of like that thing popping in and out in the middle of training. And he would do a handstand against the wall and shake his leg, and his meniscus would pop back in. And go back to training jujitsu, like live rolling, bro.
Hmm.
And then like the next day, he would like it got so bad that like he was walking his dogs. He stepped off a little curb, and his knee stepped wrong, and his meniscus popped out, and he couldn't walk his dogs. He had to call his wife to come pick him up like a mile and a half down the road. And for like 2 months, I'm like, man, maybe you should like finally get that fixed. He's like, oh, it'll get better. eventually this thing was popping out every 24 hours and locking up on him. And I'm like, finally, he's like, I should probably get a surgery. I'm like, yeah, probably, man. I mean, this handstand thing, while it's highly entertaining,
Hmm.
for me to be in training and look over and you're doing a handstand, I'm like, oh, his meniscus popped out again. You know, that's a they always get hurt, and we have a group of physical therapists in town that we see. We actually had a physical therapist that started jujitsu, which didn't make sense to me because all he did was see all the hurt dudes over there. And I'm like, what about that made you want to start jujitsu? Like, like you saw neck injuries, knee injuries, ankle injuries, like, and then you started jujitsu. Like, are you like a glutton for punishment? But like, if you get a guy back on the mat for jujitsu by rehabbing him correctly and he can train,
Hmm.
you get a CrossFitter back into where they can do their full lifts, or you get a recreational athlete back to, I don't care if it's pickleball, dude. You get that person back training, they will be you'll be their guy. Like
Hmm.
I start telling everybody, gotta go to Ryan, gotta go to,
Hmm.
you get a dislocated anything, you hurt something, gotta go to Ryan. You become like the genie, the genie in the bottle, like the guy that like just call Ryan, he'll fix it. Just call Ryan.
Yeah.
Like you do that for the adult population, they'll put you on retainer.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever prescribed somebody going into a handstand and like doing the stanky leg against the
Oh,
wall, but
it was bro. It was
yeah.
crazy.
But
Yeah.
I do always say to a lot of people coming in with like these kind of injuries from, especially from the activity that they love, whether it's running or Orange Theory or CrossFit or jujitsu. And it's like, I would so much rather deal with a musculoskeletal ache pain injury than deal with all the consequences that come with not being active, right? Like, I
Mhm.
would much rather deal with this tendinopathy that's like frustrating to deal with than deal with the high blood pressure, cholesterol, all the stuff that's going to come from not pursuing this physical activity that you enjoy.
Mhm. That makes it, I mean, like you understand the athlete a lot better, right? Like you are able to actually move through the process with the athlete, whereas with somebody who doesn't move very often or doesn't move at all, it's a much different process for treatment. Like it's going to be a lot more basic treatment, and it's probably not, they probably aren't as dedicated to it. Right?
Mm,
Like when you have an athlete come and see you, they're like, I will do anything to get back underneath the barbell.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's something some like not all, but some doctors, surgeons just don't fully understand that motivation too.
Hmm.
Like going back to the ACL, I was working with a young female. I think she was like 17, who had a partial tear of her ACL and went to see an orthopedic surgeon. And he was like, "Yep, we're gonna have to operate this on this." And she was trying to compete pretty highly at the like ninja competitions that we have in town.
Oh.
And yeah, so and he was like, "Yeah, we're probably gonna have to do surgery on this, and you're not gonna compete at that again." And that was like devastating because that was like her world, and it was just like a big disconnect. She came and saw me, and again, to brag on myself a little bit, it was like, we got her. I was like, "You don't." We looked at her MRI. I walked through it with her and her parents, and it was like, I'm confident that we can rehab this conservatively. And
Mm.
so we kept her in the gym, just gave her some limitations temporarily on what she could and couldn't do, walked her through that. And then while we were doing some very intense rehab, and now she's back to doing those competitions and traveling around the world doing them. So
Is the research on that eventually with progressive training that it eventually scars down?
So, I mean, very case by case, but doing MRIs on even like power lifters who are loading their joints and ligaments through with insane amount of weight, they found over time that they have actually thicker ligaments and like ACLs, LCLs, MCLs
Mhm.
than people who are sedentary or not doing resistive training. So it's like, yeah, it's even like muscles adapt to the forces that you're going to put on them. Ligaments are going to do the same thing, and that cross sectional length increases.
And your ACL, that really intrigued me about a partial tear. Um,
Hmm.
she never needed surgery,
No,
and eventually that partial ACL healed.
It healed or got to a point that everything
It
else
got
was
so
strong enough
strong,
around it. Yeah.
or it got so strong she protected it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we did a lot of like getting the muscles around it to be stronger so that she's not taxing the ligaments with as much force. We worked on some like cutting drills, things like that. And I'm sure over time, I mean, we didn't do a follow up MRI or anything, but over time, I'm sure that ACL thickness is going to increase so long as she keeps up with some resistive forces through it. And again, it wasn't limiting her so much that, I felt like a surgery was necessary at that point.
What was the time?
We worked together pretty intensely for like 3 or 4 months. And then we were just working like once a month. She would come in, kind of walk me through her training, and we would do a couple of drills. I'd progress some stuff. And then she came and saw me for another 6 to 8 months. So we saw each other for about a year.
She had to bring the juice to the workout, though, right? Like she had to bring.
Oh, she was a worker.
Yeah,
She wanted it and she was doing it.
because there are some people that won't let you push them, right? Like
Hmm.
you're like you got to push through this,
Hmm.
right? I see that a lot. Like the first 4 weeks, somebody comes out of ACL surgery. I see people say like, "You're going to scar down if you don't push range of motion."
Hmm.
They just don't allow to get pushed that hard. Now they're in a worse shape. But
Hmm.
girl like that, like you had to be allowed to push her in training.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the other side of that, if she would have had surgery and you were had her able to get out there and get it done, I don't know a person that wouldn't take that over surgery.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Right. Yeah, the non-operative side of a torn ACL, a friend of mine's a physical therapist, and they showed me a bunch of research and they posted a bunch of research online about um the long-term outcomes of not having surgery was pretty interesting.
Hmm.
I saw a similar in I think it was either labrum or rotator cuff in the shoulder.
Hmm.
That there's a bunch of research that up to a certain level of tear in the labrum, that over time it'll heal if you do the right rehabbing over time.
Hmm.
But like the long-term outcomes were almost similar. And you didn't
Yeah.
open up the shoulder and go in there. I'm just a big believer that like, man, once you start cutting on stuff, man, right? Is it ever the same again?
Well, that's like what we talked about with the neuro part, right? Like that's, I mean, I think surgery does so much to your mental besides just your physical.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at surgery like it's the quick fix, but really, I mean, to use a rotator cuff as an example, I mean, if you go in and you have a rotator cuff surgery, you're now immobilized for 4 weeks, and then you're doing gentle range of motion for another 3 or 4 weeks, and then you're starting to do some isomet. And it's still this long rehab process. It's not like they go in there, fix it, and they're like, "All right, you're good to go." Versus, yeah, we're still taking some time to do some conservative care, but you can do a lot of other things where you're not like in a sling and immobilized for 4 weeks kind of thing if you go the non-surgical route.
Right. I feel like this is all still relatively new for people too. Like I feel like this ACL research didn't really come out within it was like maybe the last couple years that I
Hmm.
started seeing it. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. And it might have been out a little bit before then. It's just
Yeah.
now kind of made its way to
Public.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Most insurances for things like knees and shoulders, unless it's like MRI shows a complete rupture of the ACL and the MCL is gone, there's a meniscus, right? Most insurances will look for the rehab process first, right? They'll say like, "Hey, we need to see 6 to 12 weeks of rehab first before insurance will cover
Hmm.
surgery," right? Is that accurate? Is that still that way? Is that
For some things, yes. And again, I think you know, it's a nice thought sometimes, but it always is frustrating when insurance tries to play doctor.
Hmm.
Like I get just as frustrated when insurance is, not going to cover physical therapy, or they're not going to cover like a medication that a doctor's prescribing or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, well, you should do this." And it's like, you're not a doctor, you're an insurance company.
uh, I'm
Um,
sure you've had people come to you and they're like, "Hey, insurance is making me do 6 to 8 weeks of physical therapy before I get surgery," and in your brain, you're probably like, "Yeah, you're probably getting surgery."
Yeah, it's kind of gone both ways too. It's like I've worked with people in the past who are very clearly trying to just check the box so they can say that they did PT so they can take the next steps, which is always a little frustrating, but I get. And then I've also worked with the people who are like, yeah, just I'm here because insurance told me to be here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through the motions with you, buddy, but I'm getting surgery.
Yeah. Which, hey, I'd rather you just be straight up about it, and that's fine. But again, the argument that I make with some people, depending on what we're working with, obviously, is sometimes it's like worst case scenario, let's try conservative care. If nothing else, we're going to build up some underlying strength and stability in whatever joint we're working on. You go and have whatever surgery we're talking about, and then it's going to knock you down a few pegs. But I would rather you build up a little bit. Best case scenario, you're like, man, I'm feeling really good. I don't think I need this surgery. Great. Worst case scenario, you have the surgery anyway and knocks you down a little bit. But I would rather have built up to here and get knocked down than just kind of be trending downwards and then get knocked down even further.
You recently knew a kid who tore his ACL, and because of where it was, like end of the year and final exams and all this kind of stuff, he had to wait like 4 or 5 weeks to get his ACL surgery.
Mm.
Went through 3 days a week of pretty intensive physical therapy. And by the time the 5 weeks was up, he was like at full range of motion, doing ladder drills, moving around. And they were all kind of like, well, why are we having to do the surgery? And the kid was like 16. And the final consensus that we kind of explained to them was like, well, he's still got 2 years of lacrosse to play. He likes to go on ski trips. Like, if he was a 45, 50-year-old dude that just probably needed to live life,
Mm-hmm.
the surgery. But if you want to end up playing lacrosse and going on ski trips and playing with your buddies, but in his brain, he was like, I feel great.
Yeah.
But in the long run, surgery is probably the good decision.
Which is cool that he could get to that point though without even, pre-surgery, because I bet he had a much easier rehab time than if he could have had the surgery right away and couldn't have built back to that range of motion and stability.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've all seen like the female athlete who was not strong, was very weak, never worked out. They tear their ACL. Now they're in such a deficit
Mm-hmm.
that even getting back to square one is so hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see that all the time with girls. If people, where are you in Greer? What's the name of your place?
We're Onward Physical Therapy. We're like right across from the park that's in downtown Greer.
Okay. Um, and can people contact you directly? Like, I want to be able to put your social on so people can find you because, you know, because we've been doing this on our podcast and we've been doing this for so long, man, I have so many people that are like, hey, I got a friend, they tore it, did something. It's the referral network is hard in this business because, like, man, I don't want them to go to the wrong person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That's hard. Yeah, I understand why people have referral networks. I know we had a physical therapist on one time from here, and he said there's actually a network of physical therapists that all kind of have more of a strength and conditioning history.
Mm-hmm.
Ray always talked about physical therapists that have squat racks.
Ryan has a squat rack.
Squat rack.
Yeah.
It's like
Sure do.
Ray's like, I want
Yep.
a physical therapy place that has a squat rack in it.
I'm not going if there's no squat rack in it.
It's crazy how rare that is.
Has, and you know what, Ryan? I didn't think it was that way. I thought that was like old school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there are still physical therapy places that still have 15 bands attached to the wall, Bosu balls everywhere, and
Like
That's it.
15 massage beds in a row where you
yeah,
sit on that
Yeah.
bed and they just test your range of motion of your leg. Yeah.
no leg
Good.
extension and a leg curl machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as naive as I guess I am, I thought that was something that we lost 15 years ago.
Yeah. I actually walked out. Well, I politely left an interview for a PT clinic because I walked in, saw no weights, asked if they had any resistant weights anywhere. And they said they thought they had a 2-pound dumbbell somewhere. And I was like, respectfully, this isn't going to
It's
be the
not
environment that
right.
I'm working in. Like,
Yeah.
but
Do you think your strength and conditioning background like helped that? Like your athletic background helped that, or you just that's something that you had learned along the way?
probably a little bit of both. I definitely got a greater and greater appreciation for just how much it does. And also just the confidence that, somebody picking up something heavy gives them, mentally and physically. So it's one of those I started to appreciate how much you need resistance training when exercising and rehabbing something. Like you got to be able to load those structures, load those joints in order to create change. So yeah, that became pretty important pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't I do think we're also seeing a change of the old orthopedic crowd is kind of leaving and the newer orthopedic crowd is coming in. I think we're getting away from you should never squat, bench, or deadlift ever again in life crowd, right? Again, that might just be the people I have conversations with. They might be all over they still might be graduating med school. But I feel like we are trending away from the people that say, you know, little Billy had a pars fracture at 16. He should never squat, bench, or deadlift again for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's just them kind of saving their own butt because they have to say that for liability purposes. But like, man, I still deal with doctors that like little Billy has a little par issue and they put him in a bob brace for 8 weeks and say don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, isn't just going to make everything else weaker? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
where's my, just I don't know.
I want to end it all on such a great episode. Tell us where to find you on your social media, and I want to hear about your favorite patient success story.
All right.
Put you on the spot.
Perfect. Love it. Social media is Onward Greenville. And yeah, we've got a couple clinics all across the upstate. So we're in Simpsonville, Greer, near the downtown airport in Greenville, and then Hampton Station in Greenville. So yeah, but favorite patient, it's hard to pick because there's a lot. But I did have a lady come to see me she'd had like years of back pain and came in as like kind of a doubter. She was like, someone told me I had to come. And I was like, okay, like this is gonna be an uphill battle. But we did some like hands-on work, some like cupping, dry needling, things like that. Use some tools that we have in the toolbox to kind of bring that pain down initially. So she could at least walk out, visit 1, 2, and be like, okay, I do feel better after doing in here. So we're addressing something that's correct. And then started loading her up, putting her spine in, less than ideal positions and situations and getting it to adapt to those without creating a spasm and freaking out, building a little more strength through her back. And now she's totally pain-free, doing like crushing workouts, throwing sandbags around, stuff that she said that she'd kind of given up on even trying before. So I do think about her, and every now and then I'll run into her at a gym, and it's always encouraging to see.
I love that.
Previous injury or just
chronic. Yeah, it's been going on for years. Nothing specific. Just like back kind of got achy, got worse and worse over the years to the point that she would always deadlift from, pads that she would have to stack up, would never deadlift from the ground, wouldn't do barbell, anything from the ground. And now no limitations, doesn't even think about it.
It's awesome.
That is fabulous. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. This was fun. Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, it was good to meet you, Josh, and good to see you, Gray. Say hey to Austin for me.
I will.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.